Hey there, my name is ZW Buckley and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Last week I released episode 2 of EQ&A, which is my monthly subscriber Q&A series. And one of the questions that I got asked, what are my top 10 music books? I listed only 3 in that video because that would have been too much for a video in which I'm answering multiple questions, but so many people came back in the comments asking me to do a top 10 list. So that's what I'm here to do this week. As I was looking at all of the books on my shelf, the ones that I have read and the plenty that I have yet to read, I noticed that once I started picking them off, each book fell neatly into its own category. And so I'm presenting to you a list of 10 books that I think every music producer should read. But here's the thing, I don't necessarily mean that you should read the exact books that I've read and inspired me, though you could. But more so, each book represents a category that's going to help you expand your knowledge and your approach to music production. But I will still talk to you about my personal list and the 10 books that I have here behind me and why they impacted me. If you are interested in picking up any of the books that I've discussed in this video, click the products button on this video so that you can purchase them from links that will then give me a little bit of a kickback. It's an easy way to support the channel if you want to read these books, and you should, because they're really cool books. I mean, that's why I read them, so maybe you would want to read them too, right? Anyway, that's there for you, which is cool. That's a new thing for me. I don't know when YouTube granted me that. But anyway, let's jump right in. So the first book that I'm going to recommend is Beck, Mongolian Chop Squad by Harold Sakuishi. Now, I don't know if you were expecting a manga to be the first book that I listed. I don't know if I expected a manga to be the first book that I listed, but this kept jumping out at me on my shelf. And especially when I was a younger musician and I was so hungry to just have the career in life that I wanted, I was deeply drawn to stories like this that fictionalize the life of a musician and talk about the struggles. And in particular, I don't know why it is, but I find that stories by Japanese authors about fictionalized musicians or bands or anything else like that focus so much more on the day in, day out grind and the hard work that goes into making your passion a career. It just resonated with me. So the first category of book that I think that every music producer should have on their shelf is some work of fiction about a musician or a band or a producer that you find inspiring. Of the Japanese variety, I would recommend, but there are plenty of good flavors no matter where the origin of the author is. So the second book that I'm going to offer up to you is Simple Marketing for Smart People by Billy Broas with Tiago Forte. I took a course of Billy's called the 5 Light Bulbs Method, and it really helped unlock marketing for me, essentially, and just thinking about how to present the things that I'm offering to the intended audience. And so when I found out that Billy was publishing a book, I was really quite excited and pre-ordered it pretty much immediately. And this book reframes marketing away from selling and focuses on education with the idea that your ideal customer should believe certain things about your product or your music or your offering, and that there are stages of belief. And if you work to educate your audience, you're going to build those beliefs necessary to turn them into customers, clients, whatever. And it's one of those things that I keep coming back to. It's a good read, but it's an even better reference. And so I would say that my second category of book that I think every music producer should have on their shelf is some sort of business or marketing book that helps them think about how they can communicate their work in a way that's going to be best received by their intended audience. The third book that I want to share with you all is The War of Art by Steven Pressfield. I feel like at this point in creative circles, this book is a certified classic, probably one of the first creative philosophy books that I ever read, and its impact has stuck with me. The book is comprised of very short essays, sometimes just half a page long, all talking about this idea of making art and resistance. And I read this for the first time probably about 10 years ago. And I stuck a little bookmark into page 108 because one single sentence has stuck with me for the last decade. And that is, nothing else matters except sitting down every day and trying. A lot of us struggle with building creative habits or maintaining creative habits. Inevitably, when we stumble or fall off the horse with those habits, we feel like failures. And sometimes those habits can feel just way too big to build. And this was an important reframing for me. So I would say then my next category of book that I think every music producer should have on their shelf is some piece of creative philosophy that helps guide you and inspire you when you inevitably hit rough patches. Oh boy, is the next book going to be controversial. So the next book that I want to share with you that dramatically impacted me as a producer is my freshman year of college music theory textbook. I have kept this thing for, oh my gosh, 14 years now. Wow, 14 years now. I have kept this book. I haven't revisited it necessarily a whole ton, but I keep it on my shelf to remind me of something that I often remind all of you, and that is the fundamentals are everything. There is no such thing as advanced techniques. There is only advanced application of the fundamentals. What I have learned and what I advocate for my students, no matter what kind of music you want to make, no matter what your musical background is you cannot escape the fundamentals. Here's the thing. I'm not saying whatever, third up, seventh down, avoid parallel fifths. Like, I'm not saying that you need to know the rules. I'm saying that this is a part of the vocabulary of music. Your whole goal as an artist is to express yourself. This gives you more words. And not only that, it helps you understand why certain words are nice to be strung together into a sentence. And these are all things that you can figure out intuitively or just by ear. But if you just took the time to sit down and learn this stuff, no matter how exciting or boring you think it is, you would become that much more fluent, that much quicker. So my next category of book that I think every music producer should have is a music theory book on their shelf that they have read. The next book is Building a Second Brain by Tiago Forte. Staying organized is a challenge. And I mean, frankly, with music production, staying organized is a challenge in general. How many of you have a folder of rendered tracks from your DAW that is final version 1, final version 2, so on and so forth, right? This book describes an approach to note-taking and organization that has just dramatically improved my life for the better. And as music producers, we have to manage a lot of files. We have to manage a lot of resources, and things like not knowing where samples are or how to properly name and organize and store files and stems. Those are workflow killers. And workflow killers are creativity killers. You want to reduce friction in the process anywhere you can. And so my next category of book that I think every music producer should have on their bookshelf is some sort of book about organizational structure, or just a way of thinking and organizing knowledge that you can reference back to, because we deal with a lot of things that need to be organized. So the next book that I want to talk about is After Dark by Haruki Murakami. Murakami is probably my favorite author, easily the author that I've read the most of their works. And this is the first book that I read by Murakami. The way that he writes, the language that he uses, the surrealism, just the sense of space and emptiness and the detail that he gives everyday life just captivates me. And so the next category of book that every music producer should have on their shelf is some piece of fiction that just inspires you and captivates you and opens up your imagination, whether you're going to draw from it literally or metaphorically. Having that source of inspiration so close by and at hand is musically rich and musically fulfilling. The next book that I want to share with you all is a collection of Sting's lyrics, which, as you can tell from the not one, but 2 discount stickers still on the cover of the book, that this collection of lyrics by Sting was not particularly popular at the Borders in my very, very small Midwestern town. But Sting is probably my biggest musical inspiration, and this was the first time I'd ever encountered just a written collection of lyrics from an artist. And just having a collection on hand to see how an artist has strung phrases together, having some sort of book that gets you into the mind of an artist that you really love is my next category. Now, the next book that I want to share with you all, and one that I literally swear to you all on my life that I have read cover to cover, is The History of Jazz by Ken Burns. I just voraciously read through this whole thing. I deeply love jazz. It is an art form that I continue to draw from and be a student of and study. Having this book and just reading the complete history of this art form was so deeply informative and helpful. And this thing probably took me a year, 6 months at least, to read. It's full. And so the next category of book then that I would say that every music producer should have on their shelf is a thorough and comprehensive deep dive into a genre that you love or the genre that you make. Okay, the next book that I'm going to offer up is almost 2 books. Well, it is 2 books. The first one is The Mixing Engineer's Handbook by Bobby Owsinski. I think that this book is a really great practical guide and really finally helped to crack the code on mixing for me. It's very rock and pop focused, but it is full of practical applications. But I would maybe even now above that book place Mixing Audio by Roi Izakai. This, and I might have gotten some of that name wrong, apologies, but I'm praising your book, so it's all good. I should have Googled it. Sorry. This is actually the textbook for the music production class that I'm teaching this term at Edmonds College, and it is comprehensive, and it does not shy away from teaching you practical application, but also the fundamental theories that are underpinning mixing as well as the tools. You cannot escape knowing the tools. You can't. If you want mixing to be a fluid part of your creative process, especially if you are like me, a composer and producer who just engineers their own work, then having this understanding of the tools, of the fundamentals, and say it again with me, class, there is no such thing as advanced techniques. There's only advanced application of the fundamentals. Well, mixing can often feel like advanced techniques, but as this book shows, and even the Mixing Engineer's Handbook also, it is just the advanced application of fundamentals. And having a resource that teaches you fully, completely, and deeply those fundamentals will just make you better. You will be better and you'll be fluid, faster for it. And we all want to make the music that we want to make and get it out there. So the next book that I would recommend every music producer to have on their shelf is a mixing book that they have read and that they understand and that they cherish as a resource. And the final book that I want to share with you all is Mirror Sound by Spencer Tweedy, Lawrence Azarad, with photography by Daniel Topete. Again, I should have Googled, but here we are. I read this 2 or 3 years back. And this is one of the final nails in the coffin of my gear acquisition syndrome, in the sense that I used to believe that the reason why I wasn't able to successfully record and make the music that I wanted to make was because I didn't have the right tools or access to a studio. Many, many different things broke down this belief that I needed better tools to make music. And one of those is this book. It is almost like a travel chronicle. Like, these guys just went around to famous artists and talked to them about their home recording setup. It helps that one of the authors is Jeff Tweedy's son, right? So you kind of have that access that others don't. But the insight and the thought and the reflections of these artists, which they're not all artists that you would maybe necessarily expect to be in a book like this. It isn't just big names, but their reflections are so insightful. This book is deeply inspiring, and it is my inclusion for my last category of books that I think every music producer should have on their shelf, which is something that talks about the recording process that inspires you. Bonus points if it's one about self-recording and home recording, because that's pretty much what all of us are doing. That is my list of 10 books that I think every music producer should have on their shelf. And mainly, I really would encourage you to focus on the categories. It follows almost the whole production pipeline and offers you both practical guides and inspiration. And producing music is very much an art and a science. You need both technique and you need craft as well. Thank you all so much for watching. And stay tuned, because I've got some really, really fun things coming up in the next couple of weeks. Till next time.